Hey everyone, we are back in live. This is Aris from Speakeasy, and today we're searching leader codes with I'm almost said your friend, but let's meet someday for a coffee, and then we can really call ourselves friends. But
Yeah.
we have Karel Koiv, and he's a entrepreneur. He works with real estates. He runs marathons. He's been a salesman on a Southwestern Advantage, and he's now I'm say coaching or leading a teams of around 160 people, which is mind blown for me. Like how can you manage or inspire or to become a mentor for so many people? I would say this simultaneously. But about that, Karel will be able probably to tell us himself. But what do you answer to people if they come up to you and just ask, "Hey, what do you do?"
Hey, Aris. Hey, everybody. So yeah, I mean, it's very simple. I coach. I help people to reach their goals. Yeah, I mean, I think it's like you said, like kind of partly look myself as an entrepreneur, but also like partly just a coach, just support. I think you mentioned that like working with 160 people. I can't look at that like I'm leading all of them, but like I am working through leaders, like and so like that me working through some leaders who are actually working with those people. I guess that's more like how I would look at that. And then obviously like with some people like I work more directly. With some I work a little bit less. Father, husband, I think that's the most important part of my life. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's explain. I never have really like figured out a good elevator speech for myself, like how to tell myself what I'm
Haven't you
doing.
done this thing? Like, okay, I actually
Done it.
should have like a 30-second or
Yeah,
60-second like
I
introductional pitch for me.
we even studied that. I was like many years ago. We did in Vanderbilt University in USA. We do courses, kind of like through Southwestern, and we even did that, and we wrote something out. But it changes like a lot, like so I kind of feel that like things that I was doing a year or two ago, like life has moved so much on already that like I should almost like every year I should write it down again, like what am I exactly doing.
It's good that you actually pointed out already on this constant change and needs to adjust all of the time, because I think I had an illusion, as many people do, that you can do something and then it sticks for a long time. But I think what's maybe before we go into some more questions, what's your point, like your point of view on this constant change and how to actually adapt to it, or how do you adapt to it?
Well, I think everybody right now has to adapt, like in this new way of life and Corona life. And I think many people have this illusion that like this is just going to go away in a month or two. But like I think like realistically we're probably going to be in somewhat like different world, like at least for the next year or 2 years, or some people say 4 or 5 years, like so we'll see. And so it's a lot of adapting, I think, that people need to do. uh, I do think like that you always have to look at the situation. Obviously, most important thing is attitude. You can look at the problem or a challenge, and you can hide from it, and you can try to avoid it, and you can procrastinate on it. But like realistically, like if you have a vision that you want to get to, you have goals that you want to achieve. And I think often even the bigger motivation is that you have like people that you work with that you want to help, and you want them to grow as well. Like then you have to figure out, and you have to adapt to situations. Not always like the solutions that you have on the table and options that you have on the table are like perfect options, but like main thing is that like you choose something and you move on with that.
You sound that like goal setting is something you apply daily. Was it always like that, or you kind of grew into it? Like how?
I think people need to do goal setting daily when they have very strong goals yet. Like, and I think like definitely for many people, like if you're still figuring out what you're doing, you should definitely like every day basically wake up and write down your goals and have a vision board. And I think vision board is a good thing anyway. But you definitely need to work on your goals more as you kind of like are figuring out where do you want to go to. once you know where you're going and you're committed to that, and you know you're going to get there anyway, maybe you don't know if it takes you 1 year or 5 years or 10 years to get there, but you know you're going to get there anyway, then I think this vision and those goals, they become part of your life. So definitely when I was younger, and the crazy thing is that when I was really young, and I did sports, I didn't really know much about goal setting, and so I kind of and I think in general, 20 years ago, we knew much less about goal setting, or we talked much less about goal setting, at least our part of the world, than we do now. And so looking back, I feel if I had been a little bit better at figuring out what my goals could be, should be, I could have maybe done better in sports or anything else as well. I think as I've learned, I've definitely made it an important part of my life, and definitely right now, having very, I think, very motivating visions, very, very motivating goals. I don't have to every morning read them because I know them by heart, so no, very well.
Okay, so that's kind of like a programming stuff. I'm just kind of listening, like on technical part of it. It kind of sounds like. How do you came to that point? Is it like a poetry you can repeat yourself, so it's kind of built in, as you said, by heart?
I think it's figuring out things that are really exciting for you, figuring out the lifestyle that you want to live, figuring out what you want to do on a daily basis, figuring out where you, I think for many people, they just don't know exactly what they want in life, and often they're too afraid to set big goals as well. I think I have a limit somewhere, there are things that I can set goals for, which are big goals, but there are also things that I haven't figured out for myself yet, how I could get to at some maybe bigger, higher levels or bigger goals. But I think it's figuring out something that's exciting for you, and then the next thing is figuring out a plan how you're going to get there, and then after that figuring out what can you do on weekly and daily basis to actually get there. So it's kind of like that. I think for most organizations, most companies, it's obviously you need to know your why, you need to know your vision, but the problem where many people get stuck is that they might even figure out the vision, but then the problem is that that vision is not exciting enough for them, or the other problem is that even the vision might be exciting, but they can't figure out what they can do day-to-day basis to actually get there. And I think it's kind of putting that down and then being committed to that, and being committed long term. I think that's most important. You don't have to be. Many startups are starting with high intensity, and then they die because they can't keep that intensity for so long. But having a constant effort, I think that makes a big difference.
You run, and you run marathons, right? So this kind of, is it similar kind of like a metaphor, an analogy for running like a sprint or running like a marathon? And do you apply this kind of logic somewhere as well when you go into the tasks or when you coach someone?
Absolutely, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think almost, I want to say almost everyone I work with or everyone I coach, I mean, they run a little bit at least, and some run a lot. And I do think that I mean, there are obviously other sports as well, but definitely sports where you have to push yourself and you have to build stamina or endurance, they will help you to develop the mindset that will help you in business, that will help you in life, that will help you to cope with challenges. I think that's an important thing. And definitely, yeah, sprinter, sprint is a totally different sport than running a marathon is, and even the preparation for that is much more fun than. And I did shorter distance running when I was younger, and the preparation for a short distance race is much different than the preparation for a long distance race or a middle distance race. So I think everyone who has been running and have done different things, they understand as well that probably the mindset or the character that you develop with in a longer distance sports is a little bit different. So.
All right. Well, I always like the kind of chronology, history on how people become who they are. Were there some big decisions or some happenings that were in your life, the points you would call, yeah, because of those I actually became the person I am today?
No, absolutely. I mean, there's I think for everyone, and I mean, looking back, it's easy to easy to find like some things, but I mean there are like number of things. I mean, starting with sports that I did, when I was really young, I played football, which I still play, and I love football, but that didn't build the character that I had, and in honesty, like why I changed football to running or track was because I wasn't that good at that, and so I went into running. Wasn't good at that either in the beginning, but like worked on myself, like got better. I think that was a huge thing, and I was in a great training group, like so I think that group had a big impact on me, and then my coach had a huge impact on me, and I think that helped a lot. Definitely built a lot of character and taught me a lot. I think the next step, with my studies, I for high school I happened to be in a good school. Well, I got into a good school, so that definitely helped me. After my studies, I went to law. Through law, I kind of I ended up through a recommendation. One of my co-students recommended me to work with Southwestern, and through that, I was working. I got to work in the States, do my internship with Southwestern Advantage back in 2007, first time, and definitely, I mean, that was a life-changing experience. Because already my first summer, I mean, it wasn't the money. I mean, I made more than $10,000 my first summer, but it wasn't the money, but it was the character that I built there, and I think even more it was the community that happened to be part of later on, the people that my own manager, my own mentor, and then some others and many other people that I've been able to work with have definitely impacted me a lot, and thanks to that, we've also been able to start a few other businesses and have been able to build passive income and then buy apartments and all that kind of stuff. So life is interesting, and I guess the most important thing is just that don't be afraid of taking up challenges, and don't be afraid of doing things that might seem scary and tough at first, but usually the things that we remember and that we look back to as the most impactful are the things that were the toughest at that point.
It's not to be afraid to take up some challenges. All right. You named that unicorn, what I've been hearing around from people all around, which is called passive income.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear people wanting to jump to it from really early days. Kind of all I want to do is build passive income. And comments always, but do you know that it goes through active? But kind of maybe you can explain how do you mean that and how it actually plays out in real life to you?
Well, absolutely. In the short, it obviously it starts from active, but it's also it starts from a lot of active work, and it also doesn't happen overnight. And if somebody promises you that overnight you're gonna be wealthy and overnight you're gonna be a great success, then it's very, very likely that it's not gonna happen, and you're gonna lose all that you have invested in that. So definitely what I always look at when taking up different endeavors as well is that what's the track record of other people who have done that before, and what gives me confidence is that if there are other people who have done it before me, why shouldn't I be able to do it? One of the I guess when it comes to passive income, one of the most simplest examples simple easiest formulas is that passive income is something that you build when you you take your income minus your expenses, and then everything that's left over from there you would invest.
Mm-hmm.
And for investing there are different opportunities obviously but then if you form that habit first, then that's already going to help you to start building something. Now the next step from that is that actually you'll make a specific percentage of all your income that you are going to save, that you're going to invest, and then only after that you start spending the rest of the money. So and that depends of course a little bit on the income that people are making and on their expenses that they have, but I think kind of the mindset that many wealthy and successful people, what they've had is that live below your means and live now so that like no one else does, so that in the future you could live like no one else does as well. And I think what definitely should give you kind of belief is that there are a lot of people who have actually built that. Many people who have built passive income, and that's my child. So like hopefully she's surviving. It's good. But Jaak Roosaare, who is one of the guys we work with and who is like running one of our sister companies here in Southwestern as well. He's written a couple of books in Estonia as well about like how to become rich, and like one of his logics is that like 50% of your income, 50% invest at 50%. It's really aggressive. It means living below your means definitely at first. But like in a much shorter time, we're talking about 5, 10, 15 years, you should be able to build like a passive income that like should take care of most of your expenses and should give you like opportunities to invest even more.
So basically, whatever comes in, just split in half, live from the half. So basically, first half it goes actually to the taxes almost, and then the second, then you split even that one as well. So it's basically living on like around like 25, maybe 30-ish percentage kind of.
Yeah, that's how many people think. They think that like this tax is basically what's taken away from them. That's not like something that we need to pay. I believe that we need to pay taxes. I think that's something that if we need to have a good working societies. Yeah, I mean obviously if you have ways how to optimize your taxes, then that's a good thing to do. But in general, I think paying taxes is okay. But again, like then you have to figure out like how to run your business and how you can make possible some of your investments you can make through your business, some of the investments you can make as a private citizen person. So like just depends how it goes.
All right. When we look more back, we might turn back to the like some money questions, selling probably as well. But
Sure.
I still like why people do what they do and how they do it. And is there some like daily rituals you wouldn't kind of consider giving up them anymore? Like these things you do daily almost.
Yes, I mean there is. I mean definitely. I mean I read every day. I don't run every day, but I do run like 5 times a week. And I do exercise somewhat almost every single day. Like so it's something like that like becomes part of your habit. I don't necessarily have like a specific morning ritual that I do every single day, but like I do like one of the things that our company former CEO and our chairman and CEO and owner as well, like for many years, Spencer Hayes, who was a billionaire and one of I think in top 100 richest people in America at some point. What he was saying, and he's dead now for a few years, but whenever he started his speeches, he always said like he always talked about his self-talk and how he starts his day. That like in the morning, he wakes up, he quietly goes to the bathroom so he wouldn't wake up his wife, and goes to the bathroom, closes the door, and looks in the mirror and says, I feel happy, I feel healthy, I feel terrific. And some days you don't feel happy, and some days you don't feel healthy, and some days you don't feel terrific. But when you repeat it a few times, you will start feeling a little bit better. And then secondly, he said is that what you're someday going to be, you're now becoming. And that's something he was around 80 years old when he was talking about that. What I'm someday going to be, I'm now becoming. So things and decisions that I make today are gonna be impacting my future. So that's a big thing. And thirdly, he was always asking himself every morning and he said he was doing it I think 50, 60 years in a row every single morning, that there are 2 kinds of people in the world: one who finds a way and one who looks for an excuse. Which one am I going to be today? And so I can't say that I do it every day, but there's, I would say, a couple of times a week I do ask exactly the same questions. I say exactly the same things. And when I was selling with Southwestern, I mean, then those were the things I was telling myself almost every single morning. So it's just getting your day off to a good start with positive self-talk and positive phrases, and you have already and it's already a little victory that you have.
Typing down in the comment section as well those 2 types of people. Are you gonna search for an excuse,
or for a way, or you're gonna find a way,
or are you gonna find a way?
Absolutely.
That's a tough one. It kind of puts you in a spotlight. Like, what do you do now, right? It's gonna
Absolutely.
Not that much options left.
It's very simple. And when you do and again and I think it comes down to a lot to your vision and your goals, because if you if your vision is big enough, is motivating enough, then you will find a way. If your vision, your goals are not so strong, they're not so motivating for you, then it's easy to find excuses. And and that's how it is. And for many people, that's normal. And it's, finding excuses is probably one of the most normal things that a human being can do. But trying to figure out how to change that mindset and how to see in every challenge an opportunity, I think that's a big thing that people should try to develop.
You mentioned vision a few times already. How do you keep yourself vision so it's accessible and you can still see it, or so you're still connected to it, like your own vision? Do you have pictures on the wall? Do you write it down? You just rehearse in your head, as you said, in the morning. So how do you keep it alive?
Yeah, I mean, I've done all of those things. I mean, I've had a goal book. I've had different vision boards. I can't say that I do it every single day, or that I do set goals once a year at least. I do set goals for that year, and then I also think long term, so usually it's good to think your vision and your goals for at least for the next 5-10 years. If you're more brave, try to figure out your vision for the next 30 years. Where do you want to be? And then yeah, I mean, it's good to write them down. I think recently, what I've mostly been doing, I've been writing them down in the last couple of years, and just and then through that, try also to figure out some steps. What can I do this year? What can I do this month to actually go there? Because how my business works is that it's really different. Ciao, Caitlin. praegu ei saa, ma tulen natukese aja pärast. We have there's gonna be football happening soon, so just getting ready. But definitely, when I think about my vision, I mean, it's so much connected to the to family. It's obviously connected the people that I work with, and I think many goals as well. It comes down to that, I don't always necessarily think that think about what I necessarily need to achieve, but I look at the people I work with and think about their goals and how they could reach their goals. I think that's a big thing.
So it is as well thinking about what you can give and what kind of impact you can make on others.
Absolutely. I think that's most important.
All right. When we look at the people and the characters, some people never give up, some give up really easy, some are there in between. I have this kind of question is why you don't give up?
On what?
Life, doing, I mean, anything. Why you don't give up? Why you still keep on moving? Why you still work?
I think it comes down to similar things. I think for me, the vision and the future is so exciting that it's very hard to give up. And I mean, there's so many different exciting things that motivate me every day that I don't know what it exactly, how this giving up looks like, honestly. And it comes down to sports and these things. I think a lot if you have this competitive spirit and you you have this hunger as well, to achieve. And I don't know, with, I don't want to say that hunger to success, because it's not success, but it's more just hunger to move forward, hunger to grow, rather than to be stable or to be in the same spot for a long time. So I think it's kind of that.
You mentioned this competitiveness, and I have heard some people think competing in sports is cool, everyone likes it, right? But competing in business or in selling or kind of in professional life, how do you view these kind of connections there? Because some people don't think it's healthy to compete in a business world.
Absolutely. What in general is healthy? I mean, it's just. I think healthy depends on how well people can handle competition, how well they can handle. Because I mean, obviously, with competition, some people look at competition as something exciting and motivating, and that's something that's helping them to move forward. Some other people look at competition as something very stressful, that like, because they probably have been also in situations where, it hasn't gone so well with competitions, and they're like, they, instead of maybe seeing, victory at the end, at the finish line, they see like, a failure, and they see, loss, and definitely like, in this situation, like, starting a competition is much harder. And so like, definitely like, I think one thing that most people, need to learn, and maybe sometimes tell themselves as well, is that like, the real success is not beating somebody else or competing with somebody else, but the real success is like, competing with yourself and trying to be a little bit better every day yourself, like trying to be a little bit better every year yourself, like, and trying to like, work on yourself. That, for many people, like, the life goes up until like, I don't know, 25, and then it starts coming downhill basically, because like, it's, they start, maybe not so good habits anymore. They get overweight and so on. And not saying that like, it's like a terrible thing, but it's just like, it's up to people's habits, and up to like, what they think is important. But like, actually, like, if you try to do your best all the time, like, then usually life will go uphill as well. With competitions, I think like, it's competitions and stress and all that, like, being under pressure. I think like, the main thing to understand is that like, everybody has that. Everybody is in that same situation. It's just learning how to handle that, and you can't learn how to handle stress if you don't put yourself into stressful situations and figure out how to actually deal with those situations.
So it's about ability to harness that kind of energy and put it into practice somehow.
You could probably say that. I think, in general, just like, because I mean, so many people like, read, well, maybe not so many people, but many people read a lot of books, and many people like, do work on their development, but they mostly work on their development on this theoretical side. They don't maybe work so much on their development on practical side. And I think like, that's one of the things that like, it's very hard to make big changes in life if you don't put yourself into those situations where you can really use the things that you're reading from all those great books that people are writing.
So if we're on the book topic, there's a question.
Sure.
Do you read, and if you do read, what is your kind of favorite books you would like to read?
Yeah, I haven't read any of your books, Aris, so I don't know.
Don't worry there. I would suggest much more other books before you actually start to mine.
But I mean, obviously, I think reading is huge. I think everybody, you don't need to read like hours every day, but like, you to form the habit that you read, like maybe to start with, you read 1 page every day. You read 5 or 10 pages every day. I think that's a great habit to have, a great way to start your day. Or finish your day, or whichever way you prefer. I definitely, I mean, there's a ton of books. I mean, I have many shelves of books, like, and my Kindle has a ton of books, and not all of them are like self-development, and not all of them are leadership, but not all of them are sales. Some are, and they're great there are great books about leadership. John Maxwell is a great author, written many great books about leadership. I do love sports, so like, many books that I read, like, they're connected to sports. I mean, even when it comes to leadership, like, one of the books I really liked was Alex Ferguson's Leading. So I mean, I'm actually a fan of Liverpool, not Manchester United, but like, he was a great coach, and he has a great book where he explains like, his leadership principles. There are great autobiographies. So I feel like, that I can learn a lot from autobiographies, because like, through that I can, autobiographies usually help me to start thinking bigger. I think like, Arnold Schwarzenegger, wasn't a great fan of his, acting maybe necessarily, but like his story is like a real life Forrest Gump story. Like, and I really encourage everyone to read that, because like, it should, and he also made, mistakes in his life, but like, where he came from and where he has gotten, I think it's amazing. There's, many other autobiographies. Andrew Agassi's Open is a great book. Many people, I think, have read. Stephen Gerrard's My Story. I mean, there's so many that like, help you to understand like other people's mindset, and I think that's what we're trying to learn from that.
I think even I saw here on my fingertip, that's the Arnold Schwarzenegger there, sitting on a shelf in the back.
At the Rico.
Yeah, the Rico.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm only like around 30% done. Kind of It was interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I really was surprised the openness, the honesty he put into it. So
Absolutely.
that was brave from
The
him.
more, yeah, absolutely. The more vulnerable people can be, and the more honest they can be in these books. I mean, it also shows their confidence, like that they are willing to share all those things. But it really helps to understand the character.
Yeah, kind of. Okay, if we move on to society a bit more, what is something for you that is completely like common? Like for you, it makes sense, but you see the society around you haven't kind of catched up to it.
Mm, so many things, but I think like maybe it's a little bit hard to like I think I'm a little bit living in a bubble. So like a little bit like I'm living in an environment where like most of the people that I spend time with on like weekly or daily basis, like they kind of understand what it means to work hard. They understand like why good attitude is important. They understand why good schedule is important, and so on. um, I think like one of the things that many especially young people like don't understand are like what are the important skills for their life. I think for many and honestly like many older people don't understand that, like and many older people like who are even entrepreneurs, they don't really understand actually like what do they need they don't understand why they're failing, or why they're not maybe not even failing, but why they're doing all right instead of like doing great. And then like why somebody else they went to school together with, why that person has achieved or done so much more, even though they studied together with like they did almost everything similarly, but like why that person achieved a lot, why they didn't. And so like for me, a couple of like really important things that I'm teaching and telling to people as well is that like you need to learn how to sell well. I think sales is probably one of the most important skills you have in life, because every day you're selling yourself, every day you're selling your ideas, every day you're gonna be in situations where good sales skills are gonna help you. Secondly, I think learning how to basically to build teams or recruit people to work with you, like, and how to find great people, how to attract great people, how to become a great attractor is a huge thing, like because people when
So
you
would
whatever.
it be like how to make like a my bubble really great, like filled with great people?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, no, absolutely, because the people you attract to you, I mean, they're going to be the ones who, who are going to build your bubble, so kind of. So if the people that like, you're working with are maybe not, don't have such a great attitude. They maybe are not willing to work that hard. They're not willing to like, their vision is maybe not that big. And that's going to impact you as well, because you're going to be the average of, they say, I think Warren Buffett said it, that like you're going to be average of 5 people you spend the most time with. Like so I think that's it's a big thing. And thirdly, like learning how to work with people, how to lead people. Because if you learn how to lead people well as well, like then that means that like your retention is good. People are not going to leave you fast. People are going to follow your vision, even if maybe like they don't have instant success. And I think if you know how to sell well, you know how to recruit well, you know how to lead people and work with people, like then I honestly feel like that, and if you have some good track record in that as well, like there's most companies in the world wanna have you in their teams, and they're working with them or for them, and in most cases in that situation you don't want to work for somebody else, but you want to build something yourself, and you're going to be successful at that.
Yeah. So once we're kind of on the sales as well, what would you, if we would break it down in some different like points or levels, what would you consider to be the most important part of selling? Or you can cover more of them, yeah.
Yeah. There's it depends what you're selling, I think, a little bit as well, but in general in sales, I mean, you gotta believe in what you're doing, believe in your product. You gotta be willing you gotta have commitment, like whatever, because when you start in sales, there are very few people who are naturally great at selling and right away like become successful. There's most cases success takes time, and like you have to be persistent, and in order to be successful, you have to have a great attitude, because in sales, like you can find so many situations, like we talked about earlier, that like you can find excuses instead of finding a way. And if you in those situations you look for excuses and you're not going to find a way, then you can fail very fast in sales, and like in everything else as well, I guess. And more technically, like it's just important that like you understand that not everybody has to buy. If you have 100 people, depending on the product, obviously, like there are products that like if you have 100 people, maybe 90 people of those actually have a need and could be potential prospects. But in many sales, like if you look at 100 people, like there's going to be like probably like 20-30% of them, like they're not going to buy anyway. And the thing is that like many people are worried about those people the most, and they let their attitude go down because of that. Then there's going to be like some people, probably like 5 or 10%, who are going to buy no matter what, whoever sells that product to them. And then there's most people who are like in between, whatever, like let's say 50-60%, who you might be able to sway them. You might be able to if you become great at selling, like you might be able to actually help them to make a decision to buy, and you might be able to convince them that this is something that they would need and that could help them. So I think understanding that is really important, and understanding that you got to do a lot of numbers most cases, before you can start actually selling on your skill.
What was the hardest part for you when you began?
Emotions. The thing was that like I thought it's easier. Like I mean, I knew theoretically it's hard, but like in the beginning it was definitely very, very emotional. When you get like a lot of no's. I mean, my first day when I was selling 2007, I talked to about like 60-70 people. I had only in the first 12 hours I had one of them sitting down with me and listening longer what I'm doing, not buying but just listening. Then that was pretty tough. By the end of the day, I did have a customer, and so like I worked that first day I think about 14 hours, and I really pushed until the almost 10 p.m. And so like it looked a little bit better on paper like later on, but definitely like during the day it felt very very tough. So and in those moments, like many times I had to remind myself already, okay, why am I here? Why am I doing this? And what's the point?
So it's like it still came down to that self-talk at the end.
Absolutely. And self-talk is huge. And I can't say that my self-talk right away was great, but like it went like from good to bad,
Yeah,
50-50.
it's kind of become better and better, more adjusted to the vision, as you're kind of saying.
For sure.
Yeah. By these kind of conversations, I'm proposing the idea that there is such thing as like a leader's code, or some kind of attributes of, attitudes or behaviors that would define as a leader. And what, in your opinion, would have to be in a person, or the person has to do to be called a leader?
It's hard to say because there's so different leaders. I mean, like in the South, in the States, they say there's this saying that there's more than one way how to skin a cat. Skin a cat, yeah, exactly. So there's. I believe in leadership as well. Like people do it differently, but like some of the things that I believe in, and I think like that can be common with many leaders are things like focusing not on themselves but focusing on the people they work with. So like they call it servant leadership. It's become a popular thing in USA that like talk about servant leadership, that like your job as a leader is not like to say what to do, but your job as a leader is to serve your people and help them reach their potential. We hope that like one day like that's not called servant leadership, but that's just called leadership. That like I think that would make sense. I do think like that one of the important attributes of a leader is to cast a vision. Cast a good vision, so like that's something that people can follow, something that people can believe in, and something a path that people can take. I think that's really important. I do think that like a good leader has to be a good manager as well, because like when you're in leadership position, you can't only talk about vision, but like you also have to focus on managing people and helping them become better, and helping depending again on a position of a leader, like sometimes you are a little bit more doing micromanagement, sometimes a little bit less, and usually like when you figure out that micromanagement in the beginning, then you don't have to do so much later on. But and sometimes like you can have great subordinates who can help you with that as well. But in general, I think often like leaders feel that they don't have to manage, but like I think that's also a big part of leadership, that like have to be good at managing people and helping them with their schedules, helping them with their projects, and actually like teaching them as well. I think leader, depending on the size of a company or business, doesn't have to know every single detail of that business, but they should generally know what the people that they're leading are doing. I think that helps a lot.
When I'm kind of listening, it sounds like there's a lot on a plate for the person who is kind of a leader.
It can be, yeah, sometimes.
All right.
But it's also like, I mean, I just interrupted. Like there's sometimes there's a lot of things on the plate, but like if you're doing something that you enjoy doing, it doesn't feel like work. I mean, I can really say that like the last 10 years, probably longer than 10 years, but like about the last 10 years, I've never felt like I'm working. It's a lifestyle, it's fun, and it's great to work with. It's great to work with like in an environment where like other people that you spend time with, you're moving towards common goals.
Mm-hmm.
And so on that side, like yes, sometimes there's many different things to do. Sometimes there's also things you need to do that you don't enjoy doing, but like in general, it's really fun. And the same in sales, like and I think in sales especially, like when you become good at sales, like you're just having fun when selling. And I think that's also a big thing that when we talk about like challenges and things, then of course starting everything is challenging, but once you actually like figure it out, once you become better at that skill, those things become fun, and that's something that like I really enjoy about what I'm doing.
How much time actually passed till you got to the point you could say, yeah, the selling is fun?
So I mean, we sold. So basically, like we were selling we are selling in the summertime. I did a little bit sales, in Estonia as well, but like not that much. But I kind of look at building teams, also partly selling. Mm-hmm. But when I look at the summer sales, I mean, I think it so that like I could have fun. Some days felt fun, like that happened. That was first summer, like definitely. And then maybe a month, maybe 1.5 months into it, like I was kind of like excited. Not every morning yet, but some mornings. But I think like realistically, so that like I would every single day go out to work and be excited. It took a few years, like a few summers, like before I was in that moment that like I knew my skill is good. I knew what I'm doing. I knew that like it's gonna work out well. I definitely like third or fourth year when I was selling, it was still some days it was challenging, and some days I wasn't like excited about that day that's coming. But I think those days were like rare at that time already. Where in the beginning, in the first summer, it was probably about half of the days where in the morning I wasn't super pumped about the day.
Okay, because it always takes time to get to this, to do the same things but start to enjoy it. That's kind of my observation.
Absolutely.
If someone is too excited at the beginning or a bit more anxious, then I'm just saying like, give yourself 1.5 years. We'll be fine then you will be fine.
I think it's also connected to like if people have big goals and they're results oriented, and you're not getting results in the beginning, it's very hard to be super excited and so about what you're doing. When people are more just kind of, I don't know, fun oriented, or like more that like it's a great experience what I'm getting, which is okay as well, like to have, but like then it's easier to be like excited, but at the same time it's not going to help you to maybe have better results. So like for me, definitely like I had very big goals already starting my first summer, so I couldn't be super happy when I had just one customer a day, like so I mean it was like okay, but like I kind of wanted more, and so that was also like I think that on one hand it frustrated me, but on the other hand it also helped push me onwards.
All right. If we move a bit more from professional part back to the like a private, or let's say life itself, you have kids, and I'm always kind of introducing kids into this question is at the point either we are the kids or our neighbors or we have kids, and there's a point in life, some kind of certain age, when we start to look around and we're asking the question, what is this all about? So then the question, Karel, what is a life?
I think it was a song. Was it Dr. Alban, 1990s? What is life?
Baby, don't hurt me.
Yeah, exactly. That's something like I remember. I mean, that's the first thing that I don't know. It's a very difficult question to answer. I think it can be so different for different people. And I think there are different seasons in life. I think there are seasons where you have to push as hard as you can. I do believe that the 20s are kind of a defining decade, that the habits that we're building in 20s I think are really important, and they're going to help kind of move us towards who we're going to be in the future. But and then there then there's the time when you are a father and you're actually, your main focus is your family and children, and I think that's really important as well. That was one of the things for me that why for example building passive income or stuff like that was important to me at a young age, because I felt that when we're gonna have kids, I want to be there for them, so right now I enjoy it. During Corona, everybody's home, but in general, that I have a lot of opportunities to be at home and spend time with them. To answer what is life, I think it should be, you trying to do your best, you trying to have an impact, trying to help other people, serve other people, and figure maybe. I don't think that we need to all search for a huge meaning, but I do think that we should have some good goals, and I think we should have fun. I think that's important. I think we should look at life as an opportunity to have an impact. We should look at it as an opportunity to enjoy it, and also to understand that there are periods in life where we should push ourselves a little bit harder, so that later on we can chill a little bit more as well.
Oh, I like that you say it's like a seasons, so it's kind of still changing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, we have a few eyes still looking at us.
Right.
There's no questions or comments so far, unless they leave us. She said, "This is just awesome. Thank you, Karel." That was some while ago. The ones that are listening now, you have basically the last chance to write some question or comments. We can go on it, and Karel is gonna build up some, maybe the last suggestion or insights from his life that he would think that, hey guys, you have to know this as well. I just want to remind that somewhere here is a subscription buttons, and you can click them so you are alarmed when the next leader codes talks are coming up, so you don't miss them, and you can prepare questions for the next talks as well. And we have came to the point when you can share your in the talk, not in the live, but in the talk, your last kind of maybe insight you would like everyone knows.
Insight that everyone would know.
No, you would like that everyone knows, or some suggestion or advice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that we have talked about already. I think for everyone, just that look for challenges, and look for things that you can do to develop yourself. And one of the great things, one of the apps that actually people I worked with, that what they recommended me was Habit Share. It's a great way how yourself accountable. You can share their habits with your friends, with coworkers, and I mean, this has helped me a lot. To keep myself on track with some of the habits, and I really encourage you as well. To find good accountability partners that would help you to have good habits and keep a good schedule. I think especially right now, with the virus, with Corona and all that, I think many people some people feel lonely, some people feel just bored already, kind of, that it's kind of getting old. sitting at home and not like, hanging out with people too much. But I do recommend everyone just like, to have a good schedule and like, really, once in a week. I usually do it on Fridays or on the weekend, like, take half an hour. I more or less like, figure out my plan for next week, what am I going to be doing, who am I going to be meeting, and so on, scheduling those meetings. And that way you have like, the more specific your plan is, the better it is. So like, if you're doing schoolwork, then if you can actually, instead of just like, schoolwork from 9 to 12, you could write down exactly specifically what you're going to be doing. You're much more likely to get those things done as well. And I think, that should help, like, and in general, like, in life as well, like, look for people who you could learn from, and look for people who keep you accountable, because I think that's the most important thing. It's so easy to kind of let go, or like you asked earlier, to give up if you don't have anybody who's keeping you accountable for your goals and for your plans.
All right, so it's kind of like, even like a social pressure, right? Kind of helps on it.
Absolutely, it does. Pressure is good. And that's also the self-talk thing as well, like, that you can look at pressure that, oh, it's so bad, I don't like pressure, I want to avoid pressure, or you can look at it that it's a great thing, like, I love pressure is awesome. And the way you look at it, that's exactly how you're going to be feeling.
The app you said was Habit Share.
Habit Share is the app. Yeah, I mean, there's probably many others, like, so I don't know. I'm promoting now one app, and so it's gonna get like
if you
200,000 more people signing up, but
Yeah, I'm just gonna put it in the comments as well, so someone can at least orient around it and maybe find it. So those who need this social pressure, you can use it, connect it, and then just say, I'm gonna do this, and then cry before doing it because the pressure is there.
And even have your parents, or siblings, or also sign up for that, like, and like, have your mom, like, sign up that she would do, like, I don't know, maybe with Corona she's not going to do 10,000 steps, but like have her do 5,000 steps in a day or something like that. So it's just something that, like, will help you, will actually, and it's also a way of interacting and stuff. So I really recommend it.
All right. So we didn't get any questions anymore. So, and we came to the point we can say as well goodbye. And thank you for your time, your insights, your energy, your suggestions. Hope it was really helpful as well for those who are listening online and the ones who will listen afterwards the record. If people have any more questions and they want to kind of connect to you, is there some kind of possible way that you let people to connect to you?
Yes, of course. Every way. I mean, you can. I am. Yeah. I mean, in all those normal social media channels, I guess. Like, you guys, what young people use. Instagram. I've had an account now for, I think, since last year. Facebook, email. You can find me. My first name, last name @gmail.com. So yeah. I mean, absolutely. Like, whatever is easier for you guys to connect, then absolutely let me know.
Yeah, so because I think people sometimes have questions. They resonate with something. They hear, "Oh, that's really good insight," and maybe they just want to send you thank you for actually sharing your thoughts and ideas as well here.
Absolutely.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Aris.
Have an awesome week and amazing year, and let's just hope we can soon get back to this. What can I do today? Like, no, how can I find the way for today? Attitude.
Absolutely.
All right.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thank you, Aris. Take care. Have an awesome day. Bye-bye.
Bye. And our